Hello there, my fellow Disney fan. I'm your host, Disney Dingus, and today is episode 3 of Disney Dingus Daily. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for clicking on this episode. So we got a couple things to talk about today. There isn't anything Disney related today. There really hasn't been much news Disney regarding the past couple days, so it's all just Star Wars today. We've got a couple things, nothing major. There really hasn't been anything major the past few days. So the few topics we have today are, one, John Boyega did not really agree with his character in The Last Jedi. I want to talk about that, and also why I agree, but also why I kind of disagree about that whole situation. Kind of a contradiction, not really contradiction, but an opposite side that there is to that talk there. We also have a new Rise of Skywalker poster, and then finally, I will do my review of Star Wars The Phantom Menace, because I'm seeing Rise of Skywalker next Thursday, which means I'll review that next Friday, since when I see it, it'll be after when Disney Dingus Daily comes out. So, I want to do a review of a Star Wars episode every day leading up to that, and today is the first day that happens. However, the first thing here on the docket is John Boyega not fully agreeing with the choices made in Star Wars The Last Jedi. So, he said in an interview, and I quote, "The Force Awakens, I think, was the beginning of something quite solid. The Last Jedi, if I'm being honest, I'd say that was feeling a bit iffy for me," Boyega says. "I didn't necessarily agree with a lot of the choices in that, and that's something that spoke to Mark Hamill a lot about, and we had conversations about it. And it was hard for all of us because we were separated," end quote. So I just want to remind you guys, if you want to stay up to date with all the news, Marvel, and I also want to remind you guys, if you want to stay up to date with all the news, Star Wars and Disney of the past day, every single day, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any of my future episodes of Disney Dingus Daily at 7 p.m. Eastern. And if you enjoy this video, smash that like button down below. Let's see if we can get to maybe 5 likes for this video. Alright, so I think this is interesting to think about, and interesting that he said this, and I love the honesty here. You can't really knock him for being honest. I think John Boyega seems like a really great guy, a really honest guy. He just sends off those kind of vibes in interviews. And when it comes to the Finn character, I can completely understand where he's coming from here. Because I don't know if a lot of people would agree, but at least to me, in my personal opinion, the whole story around Finn and Rose and Canto Bight in The Last Jedi was totally useless. Now, I love The Last Jedi. I think The Last Jedi is fantastic. I love it quite a bit. However, it definitely could have used without the whole subplot with Finn and Rose and Canto Bight. Because if you think about it, that did nothing. That accomplished nothing at all in this movie. So you could take that out, and you could have had a lot more time to develop their relationship and dynamic and story with Kylo Ren, with Rey, and with Luke. So I think that he's totally justified here, in the sense that, I mean, he's justified anyway because it's his own opinion. We're all entitled to our own opinions. But I think I can agree with him here, because the choices made with Finn in The Last Jedi were just completely, in my opinion, and this is coming from a guy who loves Last Jedi, I'm a huge Rian Johnson fan, I just feel like they weren't necessary. He was basically useless in this movie. Now, I wasn't a major fan of Finn either in The Force Awakens, however, he was at least useful in The Force Awakens, and I think, like he said, it was a solid start, and I would agree with that. I think The Force Awakens was a solid start for all these characters, and I think if you just use them in a way in The Last Jedi that was useful and that really built upon the characters, I think that would have improved these characters, in my personal opinion. Now, something to think about, though, that I think Rian Johnson may have run into the issue with, is that he has these characters that J.J. Abrams made in The Force Awakens. He has to use Rey, he has to use Kylo Ren, he has to use Finn, he has to use Poe. Obviously, Rey and Kylo Ren are really the two main characters of this trilogy. So he's going to focus the story mainly on them. But then he runs into the issue of, what do I do with Finn and Poe? What do I do with them? So he might have run into the situation where he doesn't really know what to do with them. He wants to focus more on Rey and Kylo Ren, but he has to use Finn and Poe. So then he just puts them on this useless subplot because it's not really important. And in his mind, maybe those characters aren't as important and not as necessary as characters like Rey and Kylo Ren. That's a possibility too. So I agree with John Boyega when he says this, that he doesn't really agree with what happened with Finn and the choices made for his character in The Last Jedi. However, I think that this is an interesting thing to think about, because while, in my personal opinion, I think John Boyega is completely right about him not agreeing with the choices made in The Last Jedi regarding Finn's character, I think, obviously, we all know that Mark Hamill was very vocal about not agreeing with the choices made with Luke in The Last Jedi. And I want to touch upon that for a little bit, because I think Mark Hamill is dead wrong. I think the way Mark Hamill was thinking about it, and I think that's the way that a lot of fans are thinking about it too, is that Luke is just the same character that he was 30 years ago. Nothing changed him. What Mark Hamill wanted to see and wanted to do probably was just face the First Order with a laser sword and mow down as many AT-ATs and Stormtroopers and Kylo Ren as he possibly can. I don't necessarily think Mark Hamill was, and I think a lot of fans of Mark Hamill were kind of, in their mind, they were thinking about what they want to see, what they want Luke Skywalker to do, and they didn't really leave an open mind for the actual story and what makes sense with the story for Luke to actually do. Because Luke's story in The Last Jedi makes complete sense. It's not what any of us were expecting Luke to do, but that's because we're fans. We're not storytellers, we're fans. There's a reason why we aren't writing these movies. And when you think about it, and when you just watch the movie with an open mind, you realize this makes a lot of sense. Luke Skywalker is Luke Skywalker, so of course he's going to take the blame for failing his own nephew. In his mind, Kylo Ren, or Ben Solo, being turned to Kylo Ren and being seduced by Snoke and turning to the dark side and becoming the second Vader, he blames himself for that. So he thinks that since he caused Kylo Ren to become the next Vader, he thinks that the galaxy is safer without him, so he's going to go into exile because he thinks he's doing the galaxy a favor. That is so Luke Skywalker. And then a lot of people complain about that one scene where Luke Skywalker has the split-second thought to maybe kill Kylo Ren before he can cause any genocide. And again, that's still Luke Skywalker. Remember, Luke Skywalker is the same guy that blew up the Death Star, killing millions of people, millions of innocent people as well. Keep that in mind. Number 2, Luke has dealt with the dark side his entire life. The whole point of Return of the Jedi is him going towards the dark side more and more and more until finally at the end he rejects it. Number 3, I think a lot of us forget that at the end of Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker goes completely ham on his own father and totally dives into the dark side. But since he's Luke Skywalker, he rejects it. However, he saw everything that Vader did. And he saw what Kylo Ren was going to do. He saw that Kylo Ren was going to destroy however many planets he destroyed in The Force Awakens. He saw that Kylo Ren was going to commit mass genocide. So being Luke Skywalker, he had a split-second decision like, hey, should I end this now before anybody gets hurt? It's a situation like, if you go back in time, do you kill baby Hitler? He's still a kid. He's a baby. But you know everything he's going to do. It's the same exact situation with Luke. However, since Luke Skywalker is Luke Skywalker, he doesn't do it. But Luke Skywalker is human. He's human. I think it's something a lot of us forget. Luke Skywalker is a human being. He's not some Twi'lek. He's not, I mean, technically he is technically an alien, but Luke Skywalker is a human person with flaws. With flaws. And Luke Skywalker would definitely, being that hero, he would have that split-second decision of, I don't know, like, do I stop this from happening? Do I stop a second Vader? I saw everything Vader did. I saw how terrible the galaxy was. I saw how many people were killed. Do I allow that to happen again? And he's going to have that split-second decision of, and thought of, I can end this now before anybody gets hurt. But like I said, because he's Luke Skywalker, he doesn't do it. And him going into exile was him also being Luke Skywalker. He's taking the blame. There is no more... That is Luke Skywalker to the core. He's going to take the blame. It's his fault. In his mind, it's his fault that Kylo Ren turned. And it's his fault that there is this mass genocide. So he's going to go into exile. Because he feels like he's doing the galaxy a favor. But of course, Luke Skywalker isn't perfect. So then Yoda appears to him and he's like, yo, stop. You're being an idiot. It's not your fault. Go help Rey. Go help the Resistance. And Luke, again, not being perfect, still has things to learn, learns from Yoda in that moment. And at the end of the movie, Luke Skywalker does the most Luke Skywalker thing he could do. He does one, the most powerful thing that any Jedi could do, any Force user could do, and that makes sense that Luke Skywalker could do that. He's Luke freaking Skywalker. And two, he does it knowing it will kill him. He sacrifices himself because he's Luke Skywalker. And three, he does it for the betterment of the galaxy, but also, and more importantly, he does it to save his sister. Luke Skywalker's final act is doing the most powerful thing any Force user could do, knowing that it'll kill him, for his sister, to save his sister. That is the most Luke Skywalker action he could have done. Now, would it have been cool to see Luke Skywalker whip out his green lightsaber and totally wreck a bunch of stormtroopers and totally wreck Kylo Ren and totally destroy its Star Destroyer and a bunch of AT-ATs? Of course it would look cool. But things looking cool and the story making sense are two completely different things. Also, I want you to keep that thought in mind on a week from Friday when... Just keep that thought in mind for a week from Friday. So, when you think about it story-wise, everything that Luke does makes sense. Luke Skywalker is human. 30 years is going to change somebody. Anybody is going to be changed in 30. Everyone's going to be changed in 30 years. Especially with all the stuff that Luke has gone through. Everything that he went through with his father. And everything he went through with Kylo Ren. He feels like he failed not only his nephew, but his best friend Han, his brother-in-law Han, and his sister Leia. He's human, guys. Again, would it have been cool for Luke to face the First Order with a laser sword and totally obliterate fools? Of course. But there's a difference between things looking cool and something actually making sense story-wise. And like I said, remember that for a week from Friday. That's going to come back in one of these episodes. So what do you guys think about this? Do you agree with John Boyega that maybe some of the choices with Finn weren't that great? And do you agree with Mark Hamill? Maybe some of the Luke Skywalker choices I didn't agree with. Or do you agree with me where, yeah, you know, John Boyega, I think he's right there. I think Finn could have been handled better, and you know, I think Luke was handled perfectly, and it makes complete sense story-wise. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Alright, so next up here, we have a new poster for Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. So, it's a very basic poster, but I think it's a very cool looking poster nonetheless. We have Rey and Kylo Ren obviously facing off there in front of what looks like some kind of statue of Darth Vader's helmet. Now, we've seen this in one of the trailers. We've seen this where Kylo Ren and Rey destroy this statue. Now, when that first trailer came out that showed this scene, to me, and maybe to a lot of people, it seemed like they were working together to destroy this. But with more TV spots that came out, it seems now that Kylo Ren and Rey were fighting, and they just so happened to accidentally break this shrine, or whatever you want to call it, with Vader's helmet. Now, I think it's very interesting that this is what's included on the poster. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I can't really go too much more in-depth breaking down this poster because I have read some things online about this movie, and I do not want to spoil it for any of you guys. And I would ask that if you have read the leaks and read things online to not spoil it in the comments. I will delete them because I know that what they are. But if you read them, I think you know what I'm seeing here, and you know exactly what I mean by this. But I think it's a good-looking poster. Obviously, I think it makes sense to have both Kylo Ren and Rey on these posters. I think it's neat to have a Vader nod on the poster. And the top, the word, "the saga will end, the story lives forever." I think this is the thing that a lot of people are misunderstanding about the marketing. The marketing for The Rise of Skywalker, it's saying, the end of the saga, right? Meaning the end of the Skywalker saga, not the end of Star Wars. Like, a lot of people are saying, well, they're marketing it as, the last Star Wars movie, but we all know they're making more Star Wars movies. Well, yeah, they're going to make more Star Wars movies, but they're not marketing it as the final Star Wars movie. They're marketing it as the final Skywalker saga movie, not the final Star Wars movie. I think that's something that a lot of people are misinterpreting and misunderstanding. They're saying that this is the final Skywalker saga movie, not the final Star Wars movie. We know that they're making more Star Wars movies. December 2022 is another Star Wars movie. And then every other year after that is another Star Wars movie. So No, it's not the final Star Wars movie. It's the final Skywalker saga movie. Again, remember that for a week from Friday. But let me know in the comments, what do you think of this poster? Did you like it? Do you not like it? You think it looks cool? Do you think that looks cool? I think it looks pretty cool, not gonna lie. I think it does look pretty neat. And finally here, shorter episode today. But finally here, we have my Phantom Menace review. So there are going to be spoilers in this review, but I mean, it's been out since 1999, so you've probably seen it by now. And also, I want to say, if there's anything that I can do to improve my reviews, please let me know in the comment section down below, because like I said, I'm doing these every day leading up to Rise of Skywalker. I'm going to do 2 Rise of Skywalker reviews, a spoiler and non-spoiler one, and I just want to get better at reviewing these movies. So let me know what I can do to make these reviews better. But my initial thoughts, or not my initial thoughts, I've seen it dozens of times. My thoughts on Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. I love this movie. I do. I think The Phantom Menace is a great movie. And a lot of people say it's boring and slow. It's really, it's nonstop action. There's maybe one section of, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes in the second act where there's a little bit of politics, but that's only 5 to 10 minutes. Everything else is just bam, action, right in your face the whole time. I think the acting is really great. Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn is fantastic. It stinks that he didn't get more time as Qui-Gon Jinn. We got him in this, obviously. He did come back for the Clone Wars, which was great, and I'm really hoping he does come back for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show on Disney+. I think he will, because the main thing that we know that Obi-Wan and Yoda did in those roughly 16, 18 years between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope is obviously they watched over Luke Skywalker, but the main thing they were doing was training to become a Force Ghost and training to live after death, which is what Qui-Gon Jinn was training to do as well. He died before he was able to finish his training, but remember, at the end of Revenge of the Sith, Yoda tells Obi-Wan that he's going to tell him how to talk to Qui-Gon Jinn and learn the power to become a Force Ghost. So we know that they learned it from Qui-Gon, and I think they're going to show that in Obi-Wan Kenobi, so I'm hoping that he does come back as Qui-Gon. But he was great. Ewan McGregor is fantastic as Obi-Wan, and he just gets better throughout the trilogy. He just gets better and better and better as time goes on, which is it's just amazing. And even though he has more of a smaller role in this movie compared to Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, he still does stand out to me. He was fantastic as Obi-Wan. This movie definitely showed that they did Obi-Wan justice when it comes to playing a younger Alec Guinness and making a younger version of Alec Guinness. They definitely did Obi-Wan justice. And the lightsaber fight, Duel of the Fates, is the second best lightsaber fight in Star Wars. My first favorite is Battle of the Heroes. I get into that more in my Revenge of the Sith review. That review is going to be so long because Revenge of the Sith, spoiler alert, my favorite movie of all time. So I'm going to talk about everything. But this battle is so amazing. And I see people complain that it's too choreographed. I mean, that makes sense, because these are trained Jedi and a trained Sith who have been fighting and training for years. And they're young, relatively speaking. I mean, Qui-Gon is a little bit older, but at the same time, he still has years and years and years of training and experience. Whereas with the original trilogy, Vader, one, is a robot, he's older, and Luke hasn't been training for a long time, so his moves aren't going to be fast either. So it makes sense why in this prequel trilogy, all the lightsaber fights are fast, whereas the original trilogy, they aren't. And this fight is just, from start to finish, is fantastic. The score in this movie, as with all the movies, are top-notch, but Duel of Fates is, I think, again, either second or third best Star Wars piece of music that John Williams has made. I think it fits so well, it's so iconic, and it goes so well with the battle. And the fact that they have a lot of Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul the whole time, making you think that Qui-Gon's going to be able to defeat Maul. We all know that eventually Qui-Gon's going to die, because we know that he's not in the original trilogy, whereas Obi-Wan is. But the fact that Qui-Gon the whole time is the one beating him, and then at the end, when Obi-Wan's trapped, you realize that, oh no, this is where he dies. And then, even though you really know he's going to die and that he's not going to survive to the original trilogy, his death and the way that Ewan McGregor plays it, where you can see the sadness when he screams no, and then right after the shields open, he goes to Maul full force, angry. I don't know if he's using the dark side there. I want to say maybe Obi-Wan was using the dark side there, but that's up for debate. He goes to Darth Maul full force, angry, and then George Lucas shows that Obi-Wan wasn't, the fact that he wasn't cool, that he wasn't calm about the fight, and that he went to Darth Maul fully aggressive, the fact that backfired on him, I think that's just great visual storytelling. And then when he finally calms down, regains his focus, and uses the Force to jump up and catch Qui-Gon's lightsaber and then defeat Darth Maul, again, I think that's terrific visual storytelling. Now, also, this is the movie that introduces Anakin, young Anakin, to us. I think Jake Lloyd and Ahmed Best, really, I'll talk about him in a second too. They got way too much hate for their roles. Jake Lloyd was what, 11? 8 in this movie? He's a kid. Kids aren't the best actors. That's just how it is. And I think he did really great for his age. I think he did really well. And I think a lot of people were way too harsh. You know, you can not like a character, and that's completely fine. You know, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Movies and characters, they all hit people a different way. So maybe I love Obi-Wan and you don't. And that's fine. You're entitled to that opinion. But no one, and I mean no one, is entitled to bully and harass somebody, especially when it's an 8-year-old kid. So the fact that whenever I watch this, I think about that and think about what people did to Jake Lloyd, it's really saddening to think about because he's a kid. I mean, what else do you expect from a kid? I think you expect worse acting from a kid. I think Jake Lloyd did a terrific job playing Anakin, a terrific job with the material, and a terrific job for his age. And this isn't the movie that made Anakin my favorite character. That's Attack of the Clones. But in this movie, you can definitely, at least to me, you can definitely see that Anakin, you know, starting and beginning, and then transforms into Attack of the Clones. Now, Jar Jar. One of the most hated Star Wars characters. It's a really good character. I like Jar Jar a lot. I have seen this movie countless times. Throughout my entire life, I've watched this movie multiple times. I used to watch this movie, I used to watch all the Star Wars movies, but this one being included there, on a repeat when I was younger. And I still laugh at Jar Jar. I still do. And not like that's a dumb character kind of way. Like, no, like when he's supposed to be silly, when he's supposed to make the audience laugh, make the viewer laugh, I laugh. I like the Jar Jar character. I think he's a fun character. He's just a fun, silly character, and I like that. And I like the fact that the I guess I'll call it quote unquote comedy with Jar Jar, since not a lot of people agree with me. I like that the comedy with Jar Jar doesn't take away from any of the scenes. It doesn't make the movie a comedy in a sense that there's a lot of more dramatic and serious elements. Yeah, there's some fun elements too, right? There's some comedic elements when it comes to Jar Jar, but it's placed in ways that don't detract from the movie and don't make the movie a comedy and don't make a movie what it's not. And I like that a lot. And again, with Ahmed Best, with playing Jar Jar, he got way too much hate. There's a difference between the actors and the characters. An actor does all they can and they just do their best. Maybe their best doesn't make the character great. And that isn't necessarily their fault. That could just be who the character is and the writing. And that's what it was here with Jar Jar. Again, I like Jar Jar quite a bit. Not a lot of people did. That has nothing to do with Ahmed Best or his performance. It's just what George Lucas wanted Jar Jar to be. So Ahmed Best, again, no one should get bullied or harassed by people, especially for just doing their job and not being their fault at all. So same thing with Jake Lloyd. It's saddening to me, at least, when I watch this movie again, to think about everything that Ahmed Best was put through by people. And not even fans. Those people aren't even fans. They're just jerks. So it just stinks to me, but I really enjoy Jar Jar. When it comes to the side Jedi characters, I'm happy that they replaced the puppet Yoda with the CGI Yoda. I think CGI Yoda looks really good still. I think CGI Yoda holds up quite a bit, especially in Revenge of the Sith. But I think he holds up quite well. And there's a lot of CGI in the prequels and in this movie that still holds up today. I mean, clearly there's going to be some that doesn't hold up as well, but that's just how time progresses. You can't blame a computer in 1999 for not being a computer in 2019. So when you watch this movie and watching those kind of movies, you have to keep that in mind. So to me, the CGI that isn't as great as, say, an Avengers Endgame, it didn't take me out of the movie, and it didn't take away from the movie, because at the time, it was probably really good for the time, and you can't blame a movie for aging poorly when the technology wasn't up to date. And that being said, I think it's really cool how some CGI isn't really dated. Yoda, he looks terrific. The battle droids, I think, look really great. And just even Jar Jar doesn't look perfect, but he looks better than some stuff that's being put out now. So it's really neat to see that. And I think that, like, the side characters, Yoda and Mace Windu, didn't have a lot in this movie, but they were great too. I mean, Samuel L. Jackson, he's always great. It's always cool to think back and watch back and see that Samuel L. Jackson was in Star Wars. That's gonna be a great thing to just think back on. But he was great. I think Yoda was really great. Yoda was Yoda in this movie. He was just serious. He was a master. He was a teacher. And I think that worked really well. And the pod race scene holds up so well. It's such an exciting and fun scene. It really is. It's one of the best things to come out of Star Wars, I think. And I think a lot of people who maybe not like the prequels and don't like the Phantom Menace would still agree that the Phantom Menace was, or the pod race, I should say, was really fantastic and a really great scene. And it still is to this day. And it's a still really exciting scene. It's just the sport of it all, the hype in the beginning with the announcers going to the fight itself, where there's no music, just the sounds of the pod racers going through the race is great. The struggle with Anakin, seeing how he gets through everything, is great. Showing, not telling, that he's a powerful Force user, that he is the chosen one. I mean, they do tell throughout the movie he's the chosen one, right? He's like the most midichlorians. He can see things before it happens. It's a Jedi trick. He's the only human that can pod race. I mean, obviously they do tell at some point, so that's called exposition. They have a lot of show, don't tell in this movie, and I think that's fantastic. And there's a lot of callbacks to this movie. There's a lot of references. I think that's something that George Lucas did really well when it comes to the prequels, is that there's a lot of mirrors. There's a lot of callbacks. There's a lot of references to other things that happen in the original trilogy, and even in the prequels to each other. They reference each other, they connect to each other, they call back to each other a lot. And I think that's really cool. And one of the big things, obviously, is the fact that Luke and Anakin come from the same planet. It's supposed to be a mirror. And I like that a lot. And what I enjoy is that even though Anakin, he wanted to get off this planet, he didn't want to leave his mother, whereas with Luke, he wanted to leave. He wanted to get out of there. He wanted to leave his aunt and uncle and go join the rebellion. I think that was really, even though they kind of mirror each other, that's a pretty interesting contrast to think about. So overall, I really enjoy The Phantom Menace. Now, I'm going to do a full ranking of all the Star Wars movies on Saturday the 21st, after I see The Rise of Skywalker, and then I'll do my review of it on the 20th. I see it on the 19th, review it on the 20th, and I'll do a full ranking of all of these Star Wars movies on the 21st. But I really, really enjoy this movie. And I'll give you a spoiler. As of right now, without seeing Rise of Skywalker, I enjoy all the Star Wars movies. I think they're all great. They all have something to love. They all have some bad things. Even the best movie of all time, Revenge of the Sith, has one bad scene in it. But I think this movie gets way too much hate. It's not the most underrated movie of all time. That movie is going to come up tomorrow. But it's a great movie, I think. I really enjoy it. And every time I watch it, it just saddens me that not as many people enjoy it. I think there's a lot to enjoy in this movie. Darth Maul, too. I forgot to mention Darth Maul. How can I forget to mention Darth Maul? Darth Maul, a man of few words, so iconic. His lightsaber, when that lightsaber ignited for the first time, it was so cool. The acrobatics of his moves, the fluidity of his moves, the fact that he is a man of few words, but he's so I vow to use this word more after watching this movie. He's so Bombad is just so neat, and I love that his character continued on after this movie. Some people might think it was cheap that Darth Maul survived the fall. I disagree. I think the explanation made a lot of sense, and I think it gave us some fantastic episodes in the Clone Wars, and some of the best episodes in Rebels, and hopefully more episodes to come, and a sequel to Solo, hopefully, with more Darth Maul and Crimson Dawn stuff, and Kira. So Darth Maul, I think, was fantastic in this movie. And Palpatine, Ian McDiarmid, is, in my mind, without a doubt, the best actor in this trilogy. He's so good. And I think George Lucas showed so well how smart Palpatine was, and how much everything that happened in Star Wars was his doing and went according to his plan. And it just... I'll talk more about Palpatine and everything that happened with him after Rise of Skywalker and his whole story after that. But Ian McDiarmid, man, he was so good as the Emperor. He is so good as the Emperor. My favorite performance in the prequel trilogy. So this video's getting a bit long, but overall, I love The Phantom Menace. I think it's a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it yet, somehow, I would recommend it to you. If you're doing a marathon like me, a watch marathon, one movie a day until Rise of Skywalker, let me know in the comments down below. And also let me know in the comments what you thought of The Phantom Menace. What are your thoughts? Do you like it? Do you not like it? And why? Make sure you guys subscribe and hit the bell so you can stay up to date every day with the recent news of Star Wars and Disney for daily Disney Dingus Daily episodes at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you enjoyed, smash that like button down below. Let's see if we can get to, I don't know, maybe 5 likes for this video. That would be greatly appreciated. You can follow me on Twitter at Dingus_Bringus. Also check me out on other channels on YouTube, Dingus Bringus, where I do a daily video just like this at 3 p.m. Eastern covering the news of the day with Marvel and DC. Thank you so much for watching. Have a terrific day. And this has been your daily dose of Dingus.